Okay, so now we'll get started with today's introduction to Nebula. So Nebula is our cloud management solution for our computer networking products. It is aimed at the channel. So it's designed for those of you guys out there that are deploying switches, wireless access points, security gateways. So Nebula was the first cloud-based management solution that was designed specifically for the SMB space, smaller MSPs. Prior to that, the focus had been on the enterprise network. So probably the biggest name you're familiar with is Meraki. There was also Arrowhive and a few others. So Nebula was the first one to come around that was built from the ground up and designed just for the SMB space. We launched it all the way back in 2016, and we've been constantly improving and adding to it ever since. So the components that make up Nebula, we have what's called Nebula Control Center, NCC. You'll see that abbreviation a lot. So that is the cloud portion of Nebula. That is the interface that you use to manage your products through Nebula. And then we've got the hardware itself. We've got security gateways, access points. We've got our now ATP and USG Flex series. We have our switches. And we also do have the Nebula mobile app. It's primarily designed just to let you keep an eye on things mobile-wise. If you're looking at doing full configuration, we have optimized the Nebula web interface to work great on tablet web browsers. So, and the basic idea behind Nebula is to simplify things and make things better for you. So it should take less time to do installation, less things that you need to worry about, less things you need to buy and set up. So, we've simplified how long it takes to install things. We've, reduced the need to have remote access. Nebula handles remote access for you. Nebula handles monitoring for you. Nebula stores your logs for you. Nebula simplifies rolling out and scheduling firmware updates and configuration changes. So we'll start going through some of the stuff that Nebula does in a little bit more detail here for you. So first off, setup without unboxing. So you can log into Nebula at any point, create a new customer that you're managing, create new sites for them, and start doing the configuration before you've even finalized the hardware you're going to buy. Once you do buy the hardware, there is in general no configuration that needs to be done on the hardware itself. And we have put QR codes on the outside of the packaging. So all you need to do is use the mobile app to scan the QR codes, assign it to your customer, and then ship it out to the customer site. Once it's been plugged in and has power and an internet connection, it will automatically find out where it's supposed to be, update its firmware, and download its configuration. So Nebula has been designed to get you up and running in just a few minutes. So in addition to what we're talking about here, being able to start doing setup without having to open up the box, we've also added a number of different wizards and tools in the Nebula interface to get things going. So if you want to take an access point straight out of the box, you want to set up guest networking, things like that, you can do it all, including creating your Nebula account for the first time in under 5 minutes. So Nebula is built into the hardware itself. So there's no additional hardware or software that you need. So there's no wireless LAN controllers you need to buy, no CNA devices, no cloud keys. There's no software that you need to run. There's no virtual machines that need to be up on a server somewhere. Everything is handled directly between the Nebula hardware and our Nebula cloud automatically. So when it comes to managing your Nebula devices, everything is done through nebula.zyxel.com. So anywhere you've got access to a web browser and internet, you have the ability to keep an eye on what's going on your customers' networks and make changes. So Nebula has guest access built in. We've got a ton of flexibility built into the options here that you have for providing guest access. So you can provide things from, guest access at a coffee shop or restaurant or at a hotel, or just guest access at an office building where visitors are coming in and need internet access. We've got built-in captive portal functionality on our access points, as well as on the gateways. So if you're not using one of our gateways, but you are using our access points, you can still do captive portal. And we have the flexibility when using captive portal to have people log in with a Facebook account, to just have people create or agree to a terms of service. We can have people create their own usernames and passwords and automatically register them. So a lot of flexibility how you do captive portals for just about any scenario you come across. On the wireless side of things, all of the Nebula access points have smart mesh capabilities. So the ability to automatically switch over into a mesh mode should they not have a wired connection or should the wired connection go down for some reason. We support WPA2 and WPA3 enterprise. WPA3 right now is just on the Wi-Fi 6 devices. So you can do full enterprise type 802.1x security. And we've got all the industry standards for doing fast roaming. So if you're doing voice over Wi-Fi, you don't have a lot of those drop packets when you're moving around and switching between access points. On the switch side of things, we have access to our intelligent PoE. So instead of using PoE allocations based on how the PoE standard works, we can intelligently monitor the connected devices, see how much power they actually draw, and then free up your power budget for other devices. So you can fit more devices on the same PoE switch with the same PoE budget. We've got the ability to go in there, obviously do your VLAN stuff, ACL rules, 802.1x authentication, loop guard, DHCP guard, IGMP snooping, and basically creating virtual stacks, allowing you to configure ports across multiple switches simultaneously. All configuration and all updates are done over the air. So there's no reason for you to go on site. There's no need for you to open up a VPN tunnel or do port forwarding. The cloud handles everything for you there. On the VPN side of things, we've got a couple different things here to make things easier. If you're doing site-to-site VPNs, you simply go into the Nebula interface, choose the sites you want to keep together, decide if they're going to be a hub and spoke or a star topology. Click apply, will handle everything else. For remote users and remote workers, we have a number of different options here for you. If you are using software-based, we have the ability to email out a script that will automatically configure the built-in VPN settings. That works with iOS, it works with Macintosh OS, and that works with Windows. We also give you the option now as an optional service that you can purchase, which is our secure access point or secure work from home service, which basically allows you to turn an access point into a VPN appliance. So instead of having to set up an actual dedicated VPN appliance and deal with things like double natting, you can instead send out to the customer's home a Nebula managed access point that will create a special SSID that's the same as what's in the office and will create a VPN connection between that SSID and the office. So it's a really easy way to deploy and provide remote VPN access. So Nebula was designed from the ground up with the idea that you're going to be managing multiple customers and those customers are going to have multiple networks. So we've spent a lot of time and effort making it easy for you to see what's going on your networks and make it easy to jump around between your customers. So you have the ability to see a quick snapshot of your customers. We have Google Maps integration so you can map their locations directly on a map for visual representation. Once you choose a customer and a site, we take you here to our dashboard view. So this has got a number of widgets. You can customize which widgets are shown, but it will show you things such as, how many devices have been assigned to the site, how many are currently online versus offline, how many wireless clients you have, PoE budget versus utilization, which users are using most of your traffic, which applications are using your traffic. So a lot of information there to make it easy for you to see what's going on at just a glance. And then we've got drop-down menus at the top to make it super quick to jump between customers or jump between sites. So we've got the ability to take a look at connected devices, whether they be wireless devices or wired devices, and see what's going on. This view that we've got here up on the screen is our wireless view. So you can see whether the user is currently connected or not, which radio they're connected to, which SID they're connected to, their current data rate, technology that they're using, signal strength, and again, all customizable so you can go in and choose which columns you see. You have the ability to export that information and you have the ability to see that information over time. And here's what we've got on the switch side of things. You can see here at a quick glance, which ports are providing PoE, how fast the connection is on those ports, data utilization over time. And configuring ports is really easy. Select the ports you want to configure, and then you pull up here and are able to change those settings across multiple ports at the same time, whether we're talking about things like VLAN IDs, whether you're doing, loop guard, whether you're doing LLDP, et cetera. So Nebula itself is free. So this is something that makes us very different than most of our competition in this space. There is no mandatory requirements for licensing. You can manage an unlimited number of devices, an unlimited number of customers, all using the free version of Nebula. Now, when Nebula first came out, when we first launched this back in 2016, we were following a model similar to Meraki, in Cisco, where we had certain hardware that worked with Nebula, certain hardware that didn't work with Nebula. So if you wanted to do cloud management, you bought Nebula. Just like if you're a Cisco house, if you want to do cloud management, you buy Meraki. But over time, we've changed that. So we've been in the process this last year of slowly phasing out all of our dedicated Nebula equipment in place of what we are calling Nebula Flex. So Nebula Flex has basically been us adding in the Nebula agent to our originally non-Nebula equipment. So now with most of the equipment you buy, as far as switches go, security gateways go, and access points go, you have the flexibility of either managing it directly in the traditional way that you would manage a network, or managing it in the cloud. So you can switch those devices really simply between standalone mode and cloud mode if you want to. So that's what we call Nebula Flex. We also offer now what's called Nebula Flex Pro. So when it comes to Nebula, we have some additional features that you can unlock with additional licenses. So if you buy hardware that's labeled Nebula Flex Pro, it's telling you that hardware includes a 1-year license to the Pro features. And we'll talk a little bit later about some of those Pro features that you get that aren't in the free version of Nebula. In addition, if you are looking at our access points, any access point that is Nebula Flex Pro can also be managed locally through a controller. So that's the controller that's built in on most of our Zyxel security appliances. So with those APs, you have the flexibility of standalone management, local controller management, or cloud management. So here's a quick breakdown of the different products. So for Nebula Flex, it's all of our 1 and 2 series access points. On our switches, it is the GS1920 V2s, the XS1930s, the XGS1930s, and USG Flex security gateways that don't come with any bundled UTM services. For Nebula Flex Pro, it's all of our 5 and 6 series access points. On the switches, it is the 1350 series, the 2220 series, and the 3800 series. And then on the gateways, we have the USG Flex. Those that come with bundled UTM licenses out of the box also include 1 year of Pro Pack. And then now also we have the ATP series that fits into the security gateway here for you as well. So I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about licensing. So again, core functionality of Nebula is free. We have our Pro Pack. And then just this year, we launched an in-between pack called the Plus Pack. So we had a lot of users saying, hey, you know what, I need some extra features here. I need things, but I don't need that full Pro Pack. So we've rolled out this Plus Pack as a cheaper solution for those of you that don't need everything that's in the Pro Pack. Now, one thing here that is, we need to be very clear when it comes to licensing with Nebula is in order for you to use the Plus or Pro Pack features, you need to have a license for every device in that organization in the Nebula interface. So if you have one device that does not have the license, then the license, none of those features are enabled. So just keep that in mind. Every device needs to have an active license at that tier level. So we'll start talking about some of the differences here between the different levels of service. So again, all versions of Nebula, unlimited access as far as the number of devices and customers you can manage. All of them include things like the ability to load in a floor plan, so you can put devices on a floor plan, Google Maps integration, access to our dashboard, etc. All versions of Nebula have our zero-touch auto deployment, where you simply plug the device in, and as long as it has internet and a power, it will go out to the internet and automatically download firmware updates and the configuration that's been assigned to it. All versions get you access to our mobile app. And now where we start seeing some changes here is going to be when it comes to client monitoring log information. The free version of Nebula keeps 24 hours of log information in the cloud. Plus Pack keeps 7 days of log information in the cloud. Pro Pack keeps a year's worth of log information in the cloud. Another area where there's some differences here is the number of admin accounts that can be assigned to one organization. So an organization would be your customer. So you can have up to 5 admin accounts with the free version of Nebula for each one of your customers. Plus Pack gets you 8, and then Pro Pack, there is no limit. When it comes to user authentication, we have our own built-in cloud database server that you can use. If you don't want to use the cloud server, you can always use your own Radius server for doing your authentication. But if you are using our cloud server, free version gives you 50 entries in there. Plus Pack gets you 100 entries. Pro Pack gets you an unlimited number of entries. All versions give you access to the core feature sets on all the different hardware there. All of them give you access to Mac and 802.1x authentication. All of them give you access to guest captive portal. So now we'll start talking about some of the other changes here, and I'll go into them with our own dedicated slides, just talking about the Pro Pack. So one of the key things here with Plus Pack is it does give you email alerts. So that is something like a lot of users say, hey, the free version of Nebula is fine, but I do need email alerts. If you do need email alerts, Plus Pack gives you that. So that lets you know, like if the device goes offline for a certain period of time, it can notify you of that via an email alert. So anyway, on to the Pro Pack features here. So it gives you access to additional granular controls. So in the cases of like guest networks, you can provide per user bandwidth controls instead of just a generic one size fits all. As we mentioned before, it gets you a year's worth of logs. In addition to that, it gives you a audit log. So we actually track which admin user made any configuration changes. So you can always go back and see who changed something when, to see if that applies to maybe what's causing the problem you're trying to troubleshoot, or they can let you know, why they made those changes. The ability to use templates. So you can set up templates to make changes across multiple sites at the same time. You can also clone existing sites, back up and restore configurations on your switches, things like that. On the AP side of things, we give you access to our machine learning to provide better troubleshooting of what's going on the network and helping solve that for you. We give you some extra abilities if you're providing guest access. So you've got the ability to use what's called Facebook Wi-Fi, which is a dedicated solution, which is different than the regular. So we have 2 different versions of Facebook login for Captive Portal. The standard version works on the free version of Nebula, and then we've also got this Facebook Wi-Fi program, which only works with the Pro Pack. And then we also have the ability to use vouchers. So you can create vouchers for users to use and then hand those out to the users. Sort of like if you go into a coffee shop and they hand you a piece of paper with a unique username and password, that's what a voucher is. And then we've also got the ability to do dynamic pre-shared key. So this is a way to be able to assign individual users to different VLANs based on their role in the company, but allow everybody to use the same SSID and to just use a pre-shared key rather than 802.1x. So each user gets their own unique pre-shared key, and based on the pre-shared key being used to authenticate, it will then assign VLANs based on that. So it's kind of a cool feature there. So this is just showing you here, this is the visualization of what's going on the network with the Pro Pack. We've got the ability here to chart out, which users and devices are having issues over time, and being able to use machine learning to adapt and modify your wireless network to better be able to handle things without you needing to go in and doing anything yourself manually. On the switch side of things, We give you access to port-based bandwidth control, the ability to back up configurations. We give you access to more in-depth IGMP. So you can go in and change some IGMP settings on there. So that's a big thing if you're doing a lot of IPTV. It may make Pro Pack worthwhile for you. We've got the ability to automatically apply VLANs to devices based on their MAC address or the beginning of their MAC address. So instead of having to set up each individual, voice phone, if they're all coming from the same vendor, you just put in the first, I think it's 6 digits of the MAC address, and it'll automatically recognize all of those phones and automatically put them on the voice VLAN for you. And then if you're using our 1350 series switches, we have the ability to automatically recover IP devices which have stalled out and are no longer responsive. So Nebula will automatically power cycle those devices to get them back online. If you're doing IPTV, we've got a really nice in-depth report, which again uses some artificial intelligence to monitor what's going on with what people are watching and let you know any sort of quality issues that may have happened and let you know what settings you should change to try to solve those issues. And then on the security side of things, we give you advanced firmware scheduling, we give you more alerts. The other thing which I haven't talked about on here, I think I actually took out the slide, and I apologize, is we have the ability to automatically send out reports. So that's really nice for your customers, especially if you're providing UTM services. You can simply go through and have a report automatically generated, have your logo added to it and emailed to your customer so they can see what those UTM services have been doing to protect their network. Pro Pack also unlocks an automatic topology view here where we will automatically generate a review showing you which devices are physically connected to which other devices. So that's it for Pro Pack. We also have another license, which is called the MSP Pack. So this is its own independent standalone license. It's independent of the organization, whether it's a pro or free or plus, doesn't matter. So MSP Pack unlocks some additional MSP type focused features for you. Now the MSP license, so while the Pro Pack and Plus licenses are based on devices, the MSP license is locked to an admin account. So if your admin account has an MSP license, it unlocks all of these features on every one of your customer sites, regardless of whether they are free, plus, or pro. So it gets you access to our MSP view. So this is a view which is showing you all of your customers and giving you a snapshot of what's going on, whether or not you're using the free or paid version of Nebula, if paid, if the licenses have expired or are going to be expiring soon. It also unlocks the ability for you to get email alerts across all of your organizations, including free organizations. So, if you've got a lot of organizations, it may be cheap, and all you want the Plus Pack for is just for the email notifications. It may be cheaper to just buy the MSP Pack and have it generate your alerts than it is to buy the Plus Pack for each of your organizations. It gives you the ability to rebrand the Nebula interface with your own company's branding and replace our support contact information with your support contact information. So if you're giving your users their own admin accounts to be able to log into the network and see what's going on, MSP Pack lets you basically rebrand that interface. So they're getting that reassurance that it's you and not us that's managing their account. We have the ability to set up teams for the admins to make it easier to assign admins. So instead of assigning each admin to each individual customer you're managing or each site, you can create teams of multiple admins and then just assign those teams to different organizations or different sites. And we give you the ability to sync certain features between different customers. So that's the MSP Pack. And then on the security side of things, we've got a couple different licenses that are available. We have the NSS Security Pack. This is the license for the UTM features for the NSG series. So as we sell through the last of the NSGs, this will go away. Then we also have our UTM Security Pack. So this is for UTM services on the USG Flex. And then we have this new feature called Secure Wi-Fi, which is paired with our gateways, which I talked a little bit about before earlier. This basically turns an access point into a VPN client device. And since it's an access point that's getting its IP address from the existing gateway, you don't have to worry about double natting and things like that. Instead, you just give your customer an access point. They plug it into their existing router or modem from their ISP, and it will automatically create, like I said, a VPN connection on it, so on special SSID. So remote users can connect to that and get VPN access back to the office. So we do have a live demo out there. If you want to give it a shot yourself to play with this, just go to nebula.zyxel.com. We used to have you log in with a username and password, but these days there's just now a button on the bottom of the page that just says, I think, try it or try demo. Just click that and it'll take you into the demo site. If you'd like to get your hands on some hardware to play with, reach out to your salesperson. I'm assuming if you're here, you're part of our partner program. So if you're a member of the partner program, you can get a free 60-day demo kit with some hardware to test out and play with in your lab. And that's it for today's presentation. Again, if you were looking for information on the ATP and some of the new security features we recently rolled out, that was done last week, but it is up on our YouTube page. So on YouTube, we are Zyxel America channel. So you can find that webinar there, as well as numerous other previous webinars and presentations that we've done. You can find us on LinkedIn as Zyxel US channel. And if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and send them in. Use the Q&A interface, and I'll see those and be able to respond to you. Otherwise, my email's up there on the screen, Sean R. Sean is spelled S-H-A-W-N. So S-H-A-W-N-R at Zyxel.com. Feel free to reach out to me offline with any questions, comments, feedback, etc. But I will stick around for a minute or two to see if there's any other questions. And again, this Thursday, we are doing a webinar where we go over some of the new features and changes that were made in the most recent update to Nebula. So again, that's this Thursday. If you haven't already signed up for it, that sounds like something you might want to see, please do. And if you do miss it, it will be posted up to our YouTube page. Okay, I am not seeing any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and end today's webinar. If you're typing something up and I'm cutting you off here, just highlight it and just email it to me, or just reach out to your salesperson, Jacob, Andy, David, any of them. Just let them know, and they'll be able to answer your question or loop me in if needed. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you coming out today.